Welcome back, Thomas. We have you today. So thank you so much, everyone who are joining us again for the Connected Packaging Summit. Really interesting conversation earlier. We were talking about sustainability, but now I am joined by Thomas Vollmuth. You are a professional with over 18 years experience, Thomas. You are international sales management across various industries. You are head of brand owner. Very, very important. So, Thomas, before we get stuck in, maybe just tell us something interesting about yourself that not many people know about you.
So many things, Jenny. Hello to everyone, and thanks, for giving me the opportunity to, let's say, being part here of the Connected Packaging Summit 2024. Yeah, as you correctly said, I'm leading the brand owner management of the Koenig & Bauer Group. As you said, also correctly said, I'm in the international sales in a couple of years and also in touch with the brand owners since more or less 12 years right now. So means I had a lot of projects and a lot of insights into the brand owners world. And this helps me a lot in my new position. To talk a little bit about what is requested now and what will be requested in the future.
Yeah. So tell us then, what are the challenges of brands today? What do you feel are on the minds here?
Yeah, well, what in terms of connected packaging, the biggest challenge is that the brands do not have any direct contact to the end consumer at the moment. Of course they could do it via social media or something like that, but let's say if they have the packaging in their hands, so there is, let's say, it's really difficult to connect directly with the end consumer through the packaging materials. The brands are really struggling also with low rate of customization of the packaging. They also have, in some cases, longer reaction times in case of hidden changes of, as an example, some ingredients list or whatsoever. Sometimes they also have stock waste of unused packaging. Then a lot of new regulations are coming up, and therefore maybe they struggle with uncertain labeling information. And the brands also most of them set up their sustainability agenda 2030, which they have to fulfill. And also this gives them really, let's say, a lot of things to do, a lot of challenges for the upcoming months and years to reach these kind of targets.
So there's a lot of things then that are on the poor brands' minds. They've got a lot of things to try and deal with. Before we dive into maybe how you're helping them solve, maybe just give us a little bit of an introduction as to Koenig & Bauer, in case somebody doesn't know what you guys are doing. Give us an insight there.
Yeah, Koenig & Bauer is the oldest printing press manufacturer in the world, and we are able to supply the widest range of printing technologies for more or less any kind of substrates. So this means, as an example, for fiber-based materials like paper, folding cartons, corrugated boards, we can also print on foil, on metal items, and also on glass and plastic, just to name a few of them. And next, let's say, to our printing technology, we have many other business units who are focusing and can provide solutions for the brand owner. So this means we can supply marking and coding solutions, digital solutions, as well as solutions for brand protection. Just to give you some figures about Koenig & Bauer, we are around 5,300 employees right now. We have 11 manufacturing locations, and we have 200 sales and services locations worldwide. And as you can see here on the slide before and this one now, we are able to provide, or I'm pretty sure that all of the participants here had already products in the hands printed on Koenig & Bauer printing presses. So really from, let's say, waking up until falling asleep, there are so many different kind of packaging, etc., which could be potentially printed on Koenig & Bauer printing presses.
All right, so we know who you are. We've heard about the challenges, but how do we bring these two things together? So how are you helping brands to meet these trends and these challenges? What's happening?
Well, quite a lot, to be honest. There's, let's say, what you see here on this slide are just a few of the market trends which, let's say, the brand owners are faced at the moment. And these ones, especially these ones, require any kind of variable data printing. I will explain later on why variable data printing is so important for the connected packaging topic. Many brands set up a lot of new solutions in terms of refilling stations or to build up their own circular economy of packaging to reduce waste and to increase their sustainability behaviors. And therefore, in this case, as an example, just on or based on unique codes, this one can be really driven by variable data printing. The topic or the challenges on the market right now in terms of brand protection, and as you can see it here on this slide, the digital fingerprint, which can be, let's say, created out of this one by several kind of solutions. This is also very important and is in most of the cases based on unique codes. For sure, track and trace in terms also of European laws or the laws for the supply chain. This is also increasing. Maybe some of you know that also from the tobacco business. There was the DPD2 set up several years ago for cigarettes, and now it's starting for other tobacco products. This one requires unique code marking or unique code printing and serialization on the product. Then in terms of customization, in terms of individualization of packaging, or let's say brands also talking about the TikTok effect, that is really a huge need to bring individual packaging onto the market, and the genset requires more individualized products to them. And finally, if we talk about regulations, there are also a lot of things ongoing. As an example, under the umbrella of the European deal, there is the discussion about a digital product passport, as an example. And also, maybe you have heard about the Project Sunrise from GS1, which
never heard about it. No, we've already, of course, we've talked a little bit about it already. So yeah, exactly. So GS1 Sunrise 2027.
Correct. To change from static barcodes to unique ones. Also, this one requires unique information on a product. And once again, this could be some design elements, but in those cases, in most of those cases, we are talking about unique codes on a product. And as you can see here for brands, it means that this really belongs to many different departments. And the challenge is at the moment to bring all of the stakeholders in a company, in a brand, together on a table and say, okay, this is the challenge, this is where we have to go for, and what can we do, how can we change, let's say, the packaging, how can we change the processes to achieve a higher level of uniqueness or unique information on the product, which we supply to our consumers.
Really, really interesting. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 category pillars, and obviously there must be lots of examples within each of those. Have you got any real life examples that you can talk us through? Yeah,
so this is, let's say, how the brands see the future of a packaging. It's a combination. It's about, on one side, about a more individualization of a digital printed packaging, as I said, about the TikTok effects, genset, and all of these things on one side, and also to reduce, let's say, the time to market, to, let's say, bring packaging about some, let's say, event, whatever is going on, faster to the consumers on one side, but also the digitalization of packaging in terms of connected packaging. So this means to transport much more information, except of the packaging itself, to the consumer in real time, and also to start a kind of a direct communication with the consumers, to improve their brand story, and also to differentiate from other products on the market. So this is really a nice tool. I would also call this one, it's really in the future a consumer multi-channel approach in a combination of digital printing or variable data printing and digitalization of a packaging.
Okay. So we're really kind of looking at the applications here. So this is kind of different packaging, each one being different. And then over on the right-hand side, being able to kind of personalize the packaging itself. Probably people are aware of the Coke bottles where you could have your own name, for example. Would that be a fair assumption of some of these examples?
Sure. And let's say, if we have a look what makes the difference in terms of connected packaging? It's about, in this case, about the code. So you can have batch QR codes or batch codes on the product, which can be used for connected packaging, as an example, for multilingual translations, for sustainability information, ingredient navigation, campaigning. So something which is, let's say, not changing that frequently. But if you change those kind of codes to a unique one, this will really enforce the real power of connected packaging. This means you, as a brand owner, you can directly communicate with your consumer. So you can send personalized messages to the consumer A, to the consumer B, to the consumer C. You are able then to do product authentication. So in terms also of brand protection, you can use the unique codes for loyalty points. You can use this one for different kind of lotteries. Imagine if you say, okay, on the 24th of December, you start at 12 o'clock a kind of a lottery for a certain product. And then the people starting at home scanning the codes and see if they want something or not, as an example. You can do, or you can fulfill also all the product tracking requirements for the future. You see exactly where are the consumers who are consuming or scanning your product in the end of the day. And this really makes the difference. So you are not using one code for many units, you are using one code for one unit. And this gives, in the end of the day, the uniqueness in terms of connected packaging, and this will really enforce the real power of that one.
Definitely. I just want to quickly emphasize something here that you're saying, because as you're talking through it, it just makes me think a little bit of one of the questions or problems that sometimes comes up with some of the clients that we have when we're creating connected packaging campaigns. So I think there is this, I think there's three kind of types of QR codes, we could say. One, which is a non-dynamic QR code. That means you can't change where the page leads to. It's pretty useless. I would say don't bother using it, right? Then that leaves us with the two that we've got left here on screen. One, which is the batch QR code or SKU level QR code, which means every single QR code in that batch or SKU will be the same. And then this other one that you're talking about is where we need the VDP, the variable data printing, which is the ability to then have a unique QR code for every product. And this is actually really necessary when we start doing things like instant win, because you want to be able to have a unique ticket, so to speak, to win. Or if you want to do loyalty points, as you're saying, you don't want somebody scanning the same product all the time, because of course that's going to be fraud and you're going to have a major problem. And I think that's a big difference, that sometimes clients kind of think that the batch QR code is going to be good enough, and it's not, because we don't have then any way of stopping people scanning the same one. So that kind of identifier. Again, you talk about product authentication. We had a great example of that this morning. Personalized messages, of course, as you say, one code for one unit. So just adding in a little bit there to make sure that point comes across, because I think that's a really big one, where we got a lot of customers who kind of make the mistake thinking that their standard QR codes are going to be able to do it. Got a question in from the audience, so I'm going to pull that over to you now. Thomas, do you believe manufacturers have or are duty bound to enlighten the consumer market around the power of 2D packaging? Variable data printing was around before COVID, as was web to print. So without consumer push and pull demand, it will rely on legislative changes, which in truth varies from country to country. Ooh, there's a big question there. They've left themselves anonymous. So I'm going to ask if you can pull anything out from that. I think, do you believe manufacturers are duty bound to enlighten the consumer market around the power of 2D packaging? I think we could kind of put that as the question.
Well, really very, very, very long question. I'm trying to answer as best as I can. So basically, let's say, of course, COVID has enforced also the people to connect even more with packaging and so on. And this, in the end, results also in the market requirement for variable data printing. Because let's say, because COVID has even more pushed in many different directions us to use, let's say, social platforms, etc., etc. And also I see this also in a similar way to the packaging. So therefore, I think that this let's say, this demand basically for unique codes or for having this one will, let's say, be in the future, yeah, really relevant for the brands having this kind of codes. And in the end, for us as a manufacturer, it means also that the technology should be, let's say, valid for doing this.
All right. Well, it was a hard one, but I think you got to it. I think you got to it. Okay, so let's go back to our variable data printing, and maybe this next slide can really help you explain how it works.
Yeah, this is an example how it could work in the printing process. So in very simple, what it means, on one side, we have a digital printing file of a, let's say, of a product, of a packaging material. And on the other side, then we, let's say, add the unique codes to the product together. We are able to print those ones in our digital printing presses. So it means we are able to print a few thousands of unique codes on packaging materials. And then this enables then the brands to start their consumer connect or their connected packaging. This is one example. On the next slide, you will see then even more capabilities. So as I said before, we can do it in a digital printing press to do it all together in one process. Or if you look on the complete supply chain of a packaging, so we have the converting and we have the brand owner. It doesn't mean if you can't do this in the packaging or in the printing process, you can't do it then even more at the later stage. You can, because during the converting process or then at the brand owner side, there are also different kind of solutions available on the market for doing this kind of variable data printing, especially if we talk about the codes. And in these cases, most of the times then any kind of marking and coding solutions will be used. And as I said before, like in the tobacco industry, we are also, or we set up solutions which can print in a minute, just to give you some figures, 1,000 single cigarette packs with unique codes in one station, which was also really unique on the market. And this just shows there are really a lot of possibilities to bring these kind of variable data on the product to drive the connected packaging stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important piece as well, because obviously the speed of the line is related clearly back to the amount of revenue that's being generated. You don't want to then say, well, I want to have to slow the line down by even 10% so that I can do unique codes. That's obviously going to get rejected. So what you're saying is actually variable data or serialized QR codes can be printed very fast on very fast lines without making any difference to the speed of the line that is producing or filling the product.
Yeah, correct.
Great. I think lots of examples here, so I think that's really good. But let's talk about then the advantages of the digitalization of packaging. It's not just about connected packaging. There's loads of different things here, so talk us through it.
Yeah, well, once again, as I said before, if you are able to do this kind of let's say, digitalization of packaging, means on one side, it could be about the digital printing stuff, but also about the digital platforms which you're using. This in the end will increase the consumer experience or the personalized consumer experience in a very, very huge way. So this in the end of the day allows the brands to connect directly or gives them the opportunity to connect even more with the consumer and interact with them. Then on demand, on one side, talking about the printing solutions, of course, according to the market trends, to TikTok trends, etc., you are able to react much more faster. So to reduce the time to market on one side, but also on the other side, from the digital perspective, you also, let's say, can change information real time by using connected packaging platforms. So if you talk about the storytelling, of course, it gives much more insight from to the consumer about, let's say, your brand's culture, about social aspects, about sustainability, and about responsiveness, which are the brands trying to communicate or communicating in many different ways to the brands. And it's a complete new platform of the interaction between the brands and the consumers. Also on the next topic is about the consumer insight, because the brands are learning much more what are the behaviors of the consumer, what, let's say, they also can in the end of the day improve in, and also with the target to drive repeated purchases. And last but not least, maybe the most important aspect, on one side, if you do variable data printing, even whenever you do it in the process, on one side, you can reduce your SKUs. This gives you also an opportunity to reduce waste, and also to increase the sustainability topic. If you have any kind of sustainability initiatives or something like that, this is and shows loyalty from the brand owner perspective. So this is, let's say, these are some or few of the main arguments why brands should think about to digitalize even more their packaging, and in the end of the day to communicate and go in, let's say, in a closer communication with with their consumers.
Absolutely. I'm just going to comment. Ralph is writing away. He's written a very long comment, which is basically saying that there's so many things to click and discover. He usually spends 10 to 20 minutes in the groceries, which is quite a long time, Ralph. In future, he's going to need to spend hours, he says, because it's going to come like Disneyland. This will be the dream for brands and technology vendors, but maybe not many benefits for the buyers. He's saying that we're just adding and adding things to it. He'd like to be convinced more. So, Thomas, have you something to respond? If not, I have plenty.
So sorry. Yeah. Well, you mean if I should add something else to these topics, or I think got the point.
Ralph wants to be convinced that there's a need for the digitalization of packaging. So while you're thinking of that answer, I'm just going to go back to Ralph and say that at the end of the day, I think it depends on who your consumers are and the objective of the brand. I don't think that everything will be scanned in store. And I don't think that this will be scanned by everyone. So if you look at all of the different use cases for connected packaging, we saw authentication. I think that's really important, especially when you're talking about a high value product like wine or spirits, where it's really important, or baby food. It's really important that not only is it safe, but it's obviously the authentic product that you're purchasing. So yes, I do think people will scan that before buying. I think that's really, really important. If it's about sustainability and the process, and that's, as a consumer, a really important piece for you, yes, I think you'll also scan that in store. And also, if you're looking at the accessibility examples that we saw. So I don't know whether you caught Steve, he was talking about the Navi lens, and that's really about using connected packaging for people who have visual impairment. Of course, you can actually use that tool to be able to find the product in store. So it's beyond scanning, it's actually finding the product in store. And then you've got the post-purchase as well. So the post-purchase is then, of course, when you're in your home enjoying your product, you might then decide that you want to scan. You might want to receive some points or discounts or be part of a loyalty program. And then that's something you're going to do at home. So I think it's very much dependent upon the use case and the audience and what you're talking to.
Sure.
Not oh yes, everyone's going to do everything at the same time, especially sustainability, transparency. There's going to be a certain amount of consumers who are interested, and there's going to be some consumers who are not interested in that as well. I don't know, Thomas, do you have anything to add to that? Hopefully we've convinced Ralph a little bit more, but add if you like.
Well, you have covered more or less, let's say, the current cases at the current stage. Maybe a few more will come up in the near future. But of course, let's say there are, let's say, different kind of it depends also on the consumers. It's also not like that's the same all around the world. So people are, let's say, in Europe acting different than people in the US or in any other places in the world, and trying to, let's say, scan the codes or something like this. Let's say this is also a way of education, and it really depends on the attractivity of these kind of things. So how often the people are scanning those things, and why, what are they doing with the with this kind of connected packaging stuff in the end of the day. But I think overall this will definitely increase, and the cases, as you said, are more or less the main drivers at the moment in this direction. This is absolutely, I fully agree with you.
And it's also the use of or improving the UX. So brands have always done competitions and things like that as well. But instead of having to send off the voucher or the packet, actually you can just scan the QR code. And the great thing about the serialized QR codes that you were talking about for competitions and loyalty points, Thomas, is of course, once it's been scanned once, our platform will burn that code so it can't be scanned again. That's the whole point of it. So it's a serialized code which can then therefore be burnt, i.e. not used again, to be put into the same kind of competition or loyalty program. So it's a better UX for the consumer. So again, for those consumers who do get involved in competitions and vouchers and collections and things like that, it's actually a better way, which means that the brand will get more people involved in it, which will mean that the competition is more valuable to them, even though that they're offering the same prize, I should say, at the end of the day. So that's hopefully helping Ralph out. Now we need to help out Clara, Thomas. So Clara wants to know about digital printing and how much is it really going with the food safety? Is there a problem with ink migration?
Well, as an example, so we are using water-based inks for our digital printing presses, and therefore water-based inks are sustainable and user-friendly. So therefore, these ones can be used for food packaging, of course. And also we are following, or of course, we know all the market requirements in terms of some regulations for the inks, etc. So we are fulfilling this one, yes, of course. And digital printing can be used for these kind of stuff, and also let's say the marking and coding solution, as an example, if you use a laser system or something like that, that can be also used or you see it already today in other cases, laser printed codes or information on those kind of products, and this can be used easily for the food industry, correct?
So no problem at all. Okay, great. One more from Anonymous. How do we find companies that can manage the data derived from dynamic QR codes? Speak to me. We are Flight Creative. We can help you with that. We are the global leader in connected packaging and have the ability to be able to feed the codes to Thomas and his printers, manage those, ability to manage all of those pieces of data at the back end as well. So gosh, and we got to 4:12 in the afternoon. It's definitely us. So thank you for that question. Brilliant. All right. So Thomas, we know that there's all of these kind of advantages for the digitalization side of packaging, and we've listened to some of the examples. I know we can see with Drupal. That's the next slide as well. Tell me a little bit about what people can learn about if they're going to be at Drupal. Oh, well, what is Drupal?
Well, the Drupa is the #1 in the printing industry, so the #1 exhibition for printing technologies. It's the biggest show for our industry, which takes place in exactly 20 days from now. And you can, if you want to really explore more about the capabilities of the Koenig & Bauer solutions for packaging, then really you are invited. We are welcome you on our booth in Hall 16. The booth number is A31. It's really a big one, and you can see a lot of different kind of printing solutions on one side, but also many other solutions in terms of digitalization and sustainability. So there is really a lot of new things to explore, a lot of innovation, and we are really, really excited and happy, and we can't wait that the Drupa starts really in a few days from now.
Absolutely. And I think you've also got someone who's going to see you perhaps at another show, Aldstat. I've got to say I don't know that, but it's going to be a very exciting show at Drupal. I think it's for 2 weeks, isn't it? The show? Or
yeah, the show is it starts on the 28th of May and it finishes on the 7th of June. So it's exactly 12 days. Yeah, but let's say whenever I talk to the brands, there's such a huge interest at the moment, and we already set up a lot of dates and meetings with them. So we are really excited that this show will start in a couple of days in Düsseldorf in Germany. Really, I really can say to everyone here in the audience, don't miss the chance, and please go to the Drupa and have a look on this really nice event for the printing industry.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, I'm going to quickly put up your slide. If anybody wants to contact you, then they can, or of course they can me and I can connect you all. But before you go, and of course time has run out, but before you do go, I would just like you to give us a piece of advice. What about any brands or companies that are listening now that are thinking that maybe digital printing or variable data printing is for them? What would you say to them? Do they need to consider anything in particular?
Well, let's say there are so many possibilities to implement variable data printing, even in their process or in the process before from their suppliers. Let's say there are many different things. I would say important is, as I have shown in the beginning of my presentation, there are at the moment a lot of market trends forcing brands to think about that. And very, very important is to bring all of these stakeholders, maybe from marketing, from the process engineering, packaging development, all together, these people saying, okay, this is the requirement. So we can use the codes for, in this particular case, the codes for this kind of requirement and for this one and this one. It's very important to bring the people together and to motivate everyone to move forward into this, potentially new subject for them, maybe also to change something in the process in the end of the day. But important, and as a really, from my point of view, success factor is to bring the stakeholders together, to have more power, to have more, let's say, push from the internal organization to move in this direction. That's, I would say, the biggest challenge, but a lot of good arguments to think about that.
Yeah, so get all the information and then go and speak to the stakeholders. So that's really, really, really good. I think the audience has been great. Thomas, you've been amazing. Ian Schofield's actually just shared the link. The event, of course, is Drupal. He shared the link so people can check it out. You shared the stand number. And Allstat is Dufferdale Old Town. So that's the place, of course, where Drupal will be. So thank you, fantastic audience, for helping us out there as well. Again, thank you, Thomas. You've been amazing. To the audience, please do stick around. We have an amazing speaker, Gemma. She is speaking from Peasy. We're going to be talking about data. We're also going to be talking about the use and application and the harvesting of all the data. So that really does relate to our anonymous question, which came before. So do stick around for that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for everything, Thomas, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you to everyone, and enjoy the Connected Packaging Summit, and have then for the people who have a great off or potentially a longer weekend. Within the next
Thank you, Thomas.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.